All right, so for our final explainer in this series, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to explore the evolution of economics itself as a science. And we're going to do that by tracing the incredible, nearly 50-year story of one of its most prestigious awards, the Frisch Medal. This is the fundamental question that's really driven decades of innovation. And the history of the Frisch Medal, which the Economic Society has been awarding since 1978, doesn't just give us a roadmap of the answers. It reveals the very DNA of how modern economics came to be what it is today. So we're going to trace this evolution in 5 parts. We'll see how economists built a better and better lens to understand our incredibly complex world. Let's dive in. At its heart, the story of the Frisch Medal is really the story of economics' long quest to become a true empirical science. It's about a 50-year journey, a journey from abstract ideas on a blackboard to the hard, credible measurement of the world that's all around us. Now, the first challenge here was just immense. How do you actually bridge that gap? How do you connect the elegant, beautiful theories of economics with the messy, incomplete, and often kind of contradictory data you find in the real world? So the early winners in what you could call the first phase were all about building this new structural discipline. They were developing tools to estimate the deep, unseen parameters of theory. Things like our preferences as consumers or a firm-specific technology. What this really meant was creating models that could take these abstract ideas, like rational expectations, and for the very first time, make them directly testable with actual data. And as computers got more and more powerful, this era just saw these incredible breakthroughs. Suddenly, researchers could solve these fantastically complex problems. Everything from figuring out the best time to replace a city bus engine to structurally identifying how firms compete in a market. The key obsession became what's called identification, making absolutely 100% sure that your model was measuring what you actually thought it was measuring. But there was a deep problem that just wouldn't go away. We've all heard the mantra a million times, correlation isn't causation. And this critical challenge, it sparked the second phase, what became known as the credibility revolution, an intellectual movement that would completely reshape the entire field from the 1990s onward. And this really captures a fundamental shift in mindset. The focus moved away from just fitting a model to data and toward finding these clever, real-world ways to isolate cause and effect. Economists started using incredibly detailed microdata to test theories in really specific contexts, like risk sharing in Indian villages, or they'd leverage things like tax reforms as natural experiments to get much, much more reliable answers. So with this newfound confidence in identifying causal effects at the micro level, the frontier of economics just expanded. The next great challenge became complexity. How do you move beyond looking at individual people or single markets to really understand the behavior of the entire interconnected system? The discipline had to move past its reliance on these overly simplistic representative agent models. The economy isn't one average person, right? It's this dynamic system of millions of different interacting people and firms. And some truly groundbreaking work showed how the messy individual decisions of all these different firms, when you added them all up, could actually explain the broad macroeconomic patterns we see. You can really see this scaling of ambition in how the models progressed. The focus just widened dramatically. It went from analyzing single markets in isolation to modeling spatial relationships across cities, like the economic impact of the Berlin Wall. And from there, it just grew to quantifying the entire global trading system. And then finally, to modeling the full interconnected general equilibrium of the whole economy. And then, in the most recent phase, all of these powerful streams just converged. We started to see researchers bringing the rigor of large-scale experiments, like those cash transfer programs in Kenya, directly into these huge, system-wide equilibrium models. And this is revolutionary, because it allows them to measure not just the direct impact on the person who gets the money, but all the ripple effects, the spillovers, that spread through the entire local economy. So this 50-year journey didn't just transform the methods of economics. It fundamentally redefined what it even means to be an applied economist. The frontier of applied economics was constantly pushing forward, from just estimating equations to rigorously identifying causal effects to modeling dynamic optimization and finally to simulating entire economic systems. And that evolution means the modern applied economist has to be this really unique blend of skills. They have to be part theorist, part sophisticated statistician, part skilled programmer, and part sharp policy analyst who can translate it all into advice that actually matters. And foundational tools like the Generalized Method of Moments, or GMM, became an absolute cornerstone of this new toolkit.
It gave economists a remarkably flexible and powerful way to confront their theories with cold, hard data.
So when you look back across all these decades, a few core principles just really stand out. You see, the Frisch Medal doesn't just reward technical wizardry, it consistently honors the methodological breakthroughs that get us closer to the truth by seriously grappling with these 5 enduring challenges. So where does this incredible intellectual journey lead next? Well, the powerful tools that were forged over these decades are now being aimed squarely at the biggest, most complex challenges that we face as a global society. Answering these critical questions about climate change, the impact of AI, or the fragility of our global systems is going to demand another leap forward. It'll mean fusing these massive, complex data sets with new computational power to model our world with a scope and a detail that was just simply unimaginable a few decades ago. Ultimately, this journey, from abstract theory to credible systemic measurement, this is the great transformation at the very heart of the Frisch Medal story. It's given us an incredibly powerful toolkit for understanding our world, and it leaves us with one final essential question. What new frontiers will the next generation of economists conquer?